Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Alma Podcast. Today we have Vanessa Avila, who is a holistic astrologer. I just got so excited. I was like, ah! Who's a holistic astrologer. She works with the celestial bodies to give us a look into our unconscious mind, which is 95% of our reality. And I don't know why when you wrote that, I was just like, ha ha ha. I mean, it's so true. She's also a yoga instructor and works with systemic constellations. She has workshops and women's circles that just hold a space in a container to really be able to pour her pure divine feminine into the community that we have. So, yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here, so thank you.
Of course, of course. So, the first question I want to ask you is how did you start with yoga? Because you're a yoga instructor. So, how did you start with being curious about yoga, starting yoga, getting to becoming a yoga instructor?
Wow, so that's a really good question. I feel like I started doing yoga, like going to classes and stuff when I was living in Orlando. Actually, wow, this just got a flashback. So I had a friend in college. She was my group of friends, and she was a fitness instructor. And so crazy because she actually messaged me recently. She was a fitness instructor at UCF and she was a yoga teacher. And we started going like as a group, like with my friends, we started going to her yoga classes in this big auditorium at UCF. And before then, I think that I went to a couple of classes like that my friends in high school were like, oh, like this is, like there's a random yoga class, like a stretching class, like, do you want to go? And so I think I can't remember who told me this. I think one of my teachers told me that once you're a yogi in past lives, like in other lives, or you practice yoga, you're going to continue doing this in other lives. And I think some like rishis say this too, like some sages or some yoga teachers say this. I'm trying to think who's the one. I think like Krishnamacharya said that, but anyway, whatever. So nothing. So I started getting more deeper into it. But I was going just to classes. Like I was doing it more for the asana practice, just the poses and the exercise kind of thing. And then I went to, I guess like what really activated me teaching yoga and besides like going to the classes and just like it becoming like part of like my discipline, like my routine, I started getting more into like self-awareness, into myself, into my astrology studies, especially since a couple years ago, since like 3 4 years ago, like right before the pandemic really hit. Like that's when I started getting deeper into like moving away more from like moving away from the real estate life, the hustle culture, and being like, dude, like I have this like inner witch inside of me, like, she's always been there. I've always been this witchy girl, like since I was little. I always tell people I was like the little kid from The Sixth Sense, dude. Like when I watch that movie, it's so resonant. I'm like, I am this child. Like, what the fuck?
I'm gonna
I
have
don't
to
know.
watch that movie.
Oh my god, he's like this kid that sees dead people. It's like okay.
That's me.
And I had a lot of just crazy experiences since I was young, and maybe we can get into that later. But so I started moving away from more real estate and started going inwards. And a lot of my professors and my teachers started telling me like in the astrology world, March 2020, there's going to be like a break. And just like it's already been happening, but that's when there was like the conjunction of Mars, I'm sorry, of Jupiter, of Neptune. I can't think. Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn. So astrologers have been talking about that for decades, waiting for this time because that last time that happened was in the year 1510. So it wasn't like a new concept to astrologers who have been doing this for a long time. So with yoga, going back to that, so in 2021, I it was crazy. I was at this Earth Day fair and I was walking, 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 and I had started doing like these moon circles and kind of thing, and I go to this tent and I noticed that it says like this was like in Lake Yola in Orlando. It says Tulum Retreats, and I was like, oh, Tulum, like I've been to Tulum a lot, like it's so cool. and next to it says Bali for $1,800, like a whole like month teacher training, da da da, and I had just like closed this deal like in real estate, so like I had some money in my pocket, and I was like, oh shit, like this is it. My lease was ending, and I've been wanting to do something like this for a while, so I ended up going to Bali, and during that time, um, my dad had gotten my dad had gotten more sick. Like he had cancer, lung cancer, and yeah, I just felt like I had to run away, kind of like in a sense, like now that I look back. But I went to go find like something in me that had to be activated in that land. I just didn't know it at the time. So I go to this yoga course, and it's in this beautiful place in Bali. And I learn about all of these modalities of yoga, like Ashtanga, Yin yoga, and start learning about alignment and how to get deeper into my body. So I got like, besides like all the things that I've always read online about yoga, I got this really full on experience from these beautiful teachers. My teacher in Bali, he was a monk before he was a yoga teacher. And we had this like beautiful connection. And he is also into astrology and tarot. So yeah, and during the time, like my dad was like back in the States, like, you know, getting sicker and sicker. But I'm trying to like kind of like put the pieces together. Before I left, my dad wasn't like critical or anything. Like I left, and when I was there, my dad ended up like his health declined from one day to another. So my mom calls me in the middle of my teacher training, and she's like, hey, like, dad's not doing so good. I hope you're able to come back soon. And I had 2 more weeks left in Bali, and I decided to stick to it. I'm like, I kept asking the universe, like, please just give me a chance to like stay with, like, to see my dad. I feel like I'm here for a reason. And my group in the teacher training were all these women. And through practicing so much, I saw how like my sensitivity got deeper, how I started seeing colors, and my all like this energy just activated in me from doing so much repetition, from doing yoga from morning to night for 3 weeks straight. And I remember being held in the space of women. I don't think I would have maintained my cool. I don't think I would have survived without these practices being introduced to me at the perfect time, when I was in this inner battle, like this inner darkness. Like my dad is dying, and my dad was everything to me. Like we were very close. Like eh, we look similar, we think very similar. He was. I think that we have like many lives that we've incarnated together, like in a circle, like in a group. And yeah, I just had a really special connection with him beyond like, the human suffering, the human things. Like, there was a lot there too, but I was like, holy shit, like this practice and being in a space of people, of community, has really helped me and carried me through this process of grief since even before my dad passed. So that's when I started practicing Ashtanga. And Ashtanga was the only thing, just the only thing I had control over was my own, well, control was me on my mat. I would decide who I was on the mat every day, like, or I would see what would come up that day. So my mat became my sacred space. And Ashtanga, especially because Ashtanga is just, it's like a repetition of a series, like it's like the primary series, secondary series, third. So the primary series, I started practicing it. I found this teacher in Orlando, and I just continued, Um, but when I came back from Bali, a month later, my dad passes away. And besides Ashtanga, I got super deep into Yin yoga. I think Yin is super powerful. I think it makes a really nice complement to Ashtanga yoga. And I started opening, I would sit in these Yin classes, and I would just fucking cry, Ashley. Like I would just cry. I would sit like in a butterfly pose, Balukanasana, like, like I would just see how the connection with my emotional body, my physical body, my energetic body all came together when these practices became a discipline. Not when I was just going to random classes like, oh, for like a fad. Like, yoga started really changing my life. So I think that's why I got called to go to India. I mean, and some people were like, "Oh, it's crazy that you're young, like you're 30 and you're already in India, like already." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know how the fuck I'm here because that's always how my life is. I don't know how things happen, but I had to see from the source, like from where this kind of comes from, to see the true shit." And I'm so grateful to have found these teachers that are true vessels of ancient knowledge that are very dedicated to their craft. And I've become a disciple of some of them. Or at the end of the day, all these people have taught me to find my inner guru more than being a disciple, actually. And I hope to be that for my friends and for my students and for anyone I come in contact with. It's like to just really get down to the root and be able to share this ancient knowledge and be a vessel of it. And whether it's through teaching yoga or is it if it's through other modalities, I'm open to it too. But yeah, that's a little bit how I got into yoga. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very, very powerful. I listened to a book about Deepak Chopra, and he was talking about how yoga is how we find harmony between the physical world, no, the outer world and our inner world. And the more that we're able to have that balance, the easier it is for us to be able to take control of our lives versus let our lives control us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah,
It's
that's
beautiful. It's beautiful. It really helps you close the outer doors so the inner doors can open. Yeah.
yeah. And then you talked about Ashtanga yoga and Yin yoga. Can you explain a little bit more about just those two? You explained it a little bit, but I guess just in case no one knows what yoga is or Ashtanga or whatever.
Well, so Ashtanga translates to the eight limbs. And so each limb is, for example, the first one is yama, the second is niyama, then you have pranayama, and so forth. I can't I haven't like memorized all of them to be honest, but it's not, and asanas is just one of them. Asanas is the poses, but you have all these different layers when it comes to these tradition. So Ashtanga and Hatha are like the traditional forms of yoga. Like first became Hatha, and then Ashtanga came from Hatha basically. But those are the two traditional yogas where all other yogas really come from. So all of this comes from this man, the first like Ashtanga teacher, the first yoga teacher is Krishnamacharya, who learned from like the yogis in the caves basically, and then he started traveling around India and teaching other people. And then one day the royal family in Mysore invited him to demonstrate some of this yoga. And the son of the king of Mysore at the time, and this is all from like my understanding. This is what like my from what I've read or so he was really into esoteric stuff, like he was really interested in it. So basically, when he saw Krishnamacharya do this, like have this performance, he wanted to learn from him, and he was like, "Look, I'll build you like a shala, like stay at the palace, and then and teach us, like teach." So his one of his first true disciples was Patabi Joyce, um, who that then like other students came like BNS Iyengar. And then I think he had two other students too that learned like that generation. And then they started teaching Westerners, like Westerners started coming to Mysore and started learning about this yoga and going, back to California and teaching other people. So it's kind of how it spread. And I mean, there's more details to it, of course. Like I'm kind of like summarizing it. I'm not like a yoga history expert, but I think all yoga practitioners need to at least know, something, something like fuck. Oh
Yes, I
man.
remember reading somewhere that like when yoga came to the United States, they were trying to target men, but because men were working all the time and women were usually stay-at-home moms, it became like a female thing because that's who they could get, only women.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Interesting. I mean, that kind of makes sense. That's really interesting. I mean, there's definitely a lot of women practitioners for sure. For sure. It's crazy. I mean, that's a whole nother like topic. Like
Mm-hmm.
students were all men and then women started getting, I'm not really sure, like, well, I guess because of the Western culture, mixing in with this ancient practice and yeah.
I don't
Anyway,
remember where I read that, but yeah, continue.
well, um, so Ashtanga is, I mean, there's so many things to it. Like, I think it's like a mystical practice. Like you have all of these things. I mean, so with there's a couple series. It's a series of poses, and people start with the primary series, and people are on the primary series for a couple years, and then they move on to the secondary series and third. But when I was studying in India, so basically, like pranayama, for example, like um, it's said, and I hope I'm saying this right, but you're supposed to start pranayama breath work in the second series, not when you're on the first series. Because the first series, like you start getting deeper and deeper into like the layers of like the toxins that you have in your body. So when you don't cleanse yourself and you start doing pranayama, the breath work starts bringing up this like the toxins basically. So people like so if you get sick or these traumas start coming up, it's almost like you're bringing out the good but you're also bringing out the bad. So they say like it's recommended for you to start pranayama breath work, like if you're going to be a true practitioner after you um eh, como se dice, like when you're ready to start on the second series or you're on the second series. And I hope I'm saying this right because like Ashtangis are very serious about their shit. So I'm like, I hope an Ashtanga practitioner doesn't come back and is like, no. But anyway, this is just from my understanding. Listo. But I've been practicing Ashtanga for a year and a half and I'm level one. Like I'm still very new to it. Um But it's crazy, man. It's crazy how I saw myself transform from day one to mm, more than 4 months, like practicing this almost every day, 6 days a week. I mean, to the point where like my body, my inflammation, my body went away. I was having no breakouts. And just from like using like the sweat that came out in my practice and like rubbing it back in my skin, like that's how it would moisturize my skin. Or like drinking coconut water, after practice, because you're building a lot of heat. I mean, like Ashtanga has like the meditation part of it, the breath work, and also the movements and combining all of those. But it's crazy, man. I mean, I saw like, my teacher, he had Shiva energy. So very, very clear mirror, and not everybody's ready for that. He would tell us like that our bodies are dead. Like we have such a misconnection, like from our pinky toe to our crown. And he would show us physically, like for example, we would stand in samasthiti, which is like your toes together, heels together, knees together, thighs together, and like contraction of the mula bandha, and shoulders back and your hands by your thighs. So it's like a very very rigid pose, and you stand at the top of your mat. And after a couple of minutes, he would be like, look at your toes. Are they pink or are they yellow? And some people would look at their toes, and some people had yellow toes. And people who had yellow toes is because there was energy blockages in from the flow going down to their feet. Crazy.
That's so insane.
Crazy, crazy. Your body registers everything. Our bodies are pendulums in this dimension. It was beautiful. So when I saw that, I was like, what the fuck? Like I've always been, about the mind, about like understanding my mental processes, but now my journey is about understanding the body and the combination of all these things. And it's been interesting. I mean, it's been really interesting, yeah, to say the least.
Yeah, that's intense to just see that your toes can show you whether or not you're blocked. Because sometimes, and I kind of know that you kind of agree with this ideology, that a lot of times some people utilize spiritual practice to escape what they're going through in life. And it's like I'll just smudge some sage around me and then all the blockages are gone. And the reality is that yeah, sure, sage can probably lift up some things that are happening externally, but internally, the only person that can change that is you. And
Mhm.
usually is through movement of the body. I don't know. Anyways.
It's crazy. It's
Hmm.
beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, I think that coming back here, it's like all we can do is be aware. You know,
Yeah.
something that I learned over there was that you, just something as simple as like no no one says namaste at the end of a class in India. Nobody.
Wow.
Like that's not correct.
Hmm.
Like namaste means what's up.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's what they use namaste for. So coming back here and like now I'm in class and all these teachers like that's like a colonized thing that's in yoga, which a lot of it has been, and it's not to shame other teachers or but it's just like it is like, you know, it's I think it's every practitioner's responsibility to really be curious and to honor and to respect something that's a culture like a teaching like teachings from like ancient times since the beginning of times, like everything comes from the Vedas. Like we've already been given the scriptures of how to live life. Like, you know, we're not people are trying to like reinvent the wheel and shit, and it's like it deviates us from the truth of who we are. And seeing that, you know, there was a lot of duality over there too. I'm not saying that, you know, India was like this mecca, because in Mysore there was a lot of duality that I saw too. Like a lot of yogis that are just playing a role, you know, like I saw a lot of judgment, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, like in the yogi world. And but I also saw a lot of beauty and a lot of acceptance and a lot of truth. And so it was interesting, you know, floating between those worlds and like such a sacred place, you know, like the Mecca where yoga was kind of born for the West, you know. So and spreading out through India too.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, you know. So now I'm going to these classes and people are saying namaste at the end of class, and of course, like that ego is like this fucking person doesn't know what they're talking about. But I was there too. I
Yeah.
was there too. And all we can do is just again like just educate ourselves a little bit more
Mhm.
without having to like judge other people or like teaching with love, you know. I think that's a big thing, like teaching others with love, because if not we go back to that illusion of separation, that I'm better than you, that my yoga is better than your yoga, my meditation is better than your meditation, you know. And we go back to square one of the illusion of separation. So I think, you know, the more informed you get, you know, and I think we all go through this in this path, like once you
Hmm.
start awakening to the other side, you start going down this path of like, that's it, I have to shave my head and move to a fucking mountain. Fuck this, you know? Like, fuck everything.
I'm gonna be bald. I'm gonna be Avatar Aang.
Literally, like, I need nothing, you know? So, and that's what I felt when I was in India. But like now I'm back here and I can be this business person. Like, actually, the more I get deeper into myself, the better businesswoman I am, or the better friend, the better sister, the better
Mhm.
teacher. We change the system from the inside out. If we decide to just run away to a mountain, we're falling into another illusion. And I don't
Mhm.
think that that's our purpose as light workers, as people who are incarnated here, to just remind people of the truth that we are love. And that's it. It's not an intricate thing. Like it's a very simple concept. We've just forgotten. We've forgotten who we are. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's Sahara Rose had someone on their podcast. I forgot his name, but he literally talked about that 3 episodes ago from like May 3rd of 2023. He talked about how he used to be a millionaire and he hated his life. And then he decided to give all of his money away to help people. He went like to the Peace Corps, went to other countries, would help a lot. But then he got to the point that he wasn't able to give more. So it's like he went from both ends of the spectrum, having a lot and then being miserable, to the point where he was running out of money and he was miserable. So then he realized that it's like for him to be able to be happy, he wanted to serve others. And for him to be able to serve others, he needed money. And it's okay to have money and be spiritual. And there are spiritual people out there that are legit, I guess you could say, that are millionaires, that have six figures, that are doing a regular, I guess, living, and they're happy and they're fine, they're sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. And thank you for sharing that with me. Like, I feel like that's something, it resonates what that person went through. Like, I had to live in all of these extremes, and like now I'm living this life where I'm balancing, or I'm integrating all of these different aspects of me to just become whole, and not thinking that like, and I think this is like just going back to astrology, like, this Leo Aquarius polarity, like, people with a lot of Aquarius energy sometimes think that they're outside of the group, like they're out of the collective, they're different, and something that I've been learning, especially through community, it's like I can shine, I can be unique, I can have a word, I can, I'm sitting at this table because I deserve to be here, because I am part of this, I am part of this collective. And all of us coming together, it's like important for us to shine our unique light. And just because I'm shining my light doesn't mean that I don't want other people to shine, or that I'm gonna get lost in a crowd. No, on the contrary, it's like we're all part of this. Like, we all need to do our part, but it's like that, those thoughts, that I still have them, they still come up, where it's like, what am I doing? Are people understanding me? Fuck this. Like, I have all those thoughts, but it's like now I'm learning to, part of my discipline is to, it's what helps me just be the observer of these thoughts, where I don't, they're just like clouds passing in the sky. And some days I have a bad day, some days I have a good day. And I've been lucky enough to surround myself with people who I'm able to mirror back these things and just be open and be accepted for who I am, without putting a fucking mask on. And I think that's important too, for us to surround ourselves with these people that truly align with us and our path and what we're doing, and are supportive. Sometimes it's not our immediate family, sometimes it's friends, or sometimes it's a community. I think that, I isolated myself, like not on the outside, but on the inside, I isolated myself a lot in many periods of my life. And I'm learning to like be like, yes, we need solitude. We need time to recharge, especially like as people with Scorpio, like Scorpio in the big three. But what's healed me the most the past 2 years, what's helped me heal and remember and stay grounded, has been my mirrors, people around me, and my community. We can't do this without other people. We can't.
Yeah, and that goes back to that I wanted to say something about the fact that people are not supposed to say namaste at the end of the practice. And then now you come back, and yeah, the ego can be there and be like, oh, you're not supposed to do this, you don't know anything. But at the same time, like, one, they don't know any better. That's where we were at before. That's what we used to do with goodness in our heart, because that's what we thought it meant. We thought it was like the goddess in me sees the goddess in you type of situation. Like, this is how we start, this is how we end. Namaste, all hail the spirit above. And
Hallelujah.
but yeah, it's just so hard, and that's part of the process too, listening to the ego, seeing because our ego is important too. It helps us individualize ourselves, find who we are, what our passions are, what our goals are, and things of that nature. It helps us to give us that drive to learn more, to know more. Like, I used to love things with shamanism, and then I'll go to Ecuador, I do all these things that are not even remotely close to what a shaman would have to go through to become a shaman on, and I'm just like, well, I'm gonna have to think twice if I really want to go down that road.
Yeah.
So it just also has to do with your idea of putting all of this responsibility on your own shoulders. Like, I'm gonna be teaching everybody yoga, I'm going to be teaching everybody about astrology. I'm going to give everybody a card reading. I'm going to align everybody's chakras. It's like you're one person, there's 3 billion people in this world. And with community, with numbers, that's how we really are able to make a change.
Yeah.
So, which I wanted to ask you. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So, what's that person that you saw, well, not saw, that taught you yoga the first time, that was also an astrologer and also did cards and things of that nature? Is that how you got into astrology and cards as well?
No, so astrology and tarot, but mostly astrology has been a part of my life since my existence. Um, and it's crazy because, I grew up in a very traditional Catholic family. Like my abuelas and my tias had rosaries. They were priestess. They would pray 100 times a day. These women had rosaries the whole time. Like every time I saw that, like it's like a part of like their outfit, like their like fucking costume. Like always had a rosary and always had a vela prendida, San Judas, a la Virgen de Guadalupe, like, the whole thing. So very devout, like to God. Like these women were so holy. My grandmother, like my great aunt, like, and my mom too. My mom was very of service to the church. She was always part of the community. She would make us go to church every Sunday. And back then I was like, ill religion, ill this, like ill Jesus, like all this shit, like, because it was so forced down my throat. But my my mom, bro, like just it's just so crazy because I've healed so, like my path with my mom has been crazy, and like to look back and be like, oh my God, like I am who I am because of my mother. Like I am, like, she's in my DNA, she's in my cells. And she took me to my first astrologer when I was 9 in Maracaibo. And she loved Connie Mendez, who was this woman that wrote metaphysical books. And my mom had all her books. So my mom was always very curious. When my mom was little, she almost joined a convent. Like she was very, very, like, very spiritual, very spiritual.
I just got chills. Wow, that's beautiful.
Very spiritual, but very dogmatic, very, very into the systematic religion. But I think that the women in my lineage, like I have to call them priests because that's what they were. I just don't think that they call themselves that. Like my immediate ancestors, like my grandmother, so my mom took me to this astrologer, and I remember being in the room, the tiles, the man's desk, what he looked like, his voice, everything. It was like this memory. And I remember like seeing the pictures of like the planets and the galaxies on the wall. And I remember something in me like just woke up. And my favorite cartoon as a little girl was Sailor Moon. And it was, there was one called Sakura Card Captor, and she had tarot cards. Like this anime girl had like tarot cards. Yeah, it was crazy.
I'm gonna have to rewatch this because I don't remember that. And I used to watch
Dude,
that too.
dude, if you look at those TV shows, you're like, oh, this is why I'm like this. Like
They prep me. They
my
prep me.
programming. This is my fucking programming. So anyway, so I had a cassette. So back then they would record like in cassettes, and I still carry that cassette till today. So I can hear my voice, I can hear some of his predictions, some of the things that he said about me. And I remember thinking, I'm like, how can someone see me for who I am? Like on the outside, because I have a Leo moon and a Gemini ascendant. So on the outside, I was always this very spunky, like energetic little girl, like always smiley, which I still am. But inside, there's this dark demon living inside of me, like this Scorpio demon living inside of me, this very dark, like, did you watch Wednesday on Netflix?
Girl, you know what's funny? That's me.
That's me.
I haven't even watched the
Like,
show and I'm hanging out with my friends and I'm just dancing like this. And they're like, why are you repeating the Wednesday dance? And I'm like, this is my dance. What?
dude, watch that show, please. You'll be like, oh my God, this girl is like me. Like, this is who I am on the inside. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, so I don't know. So that's when my journey in astrology started. I got every single book about Scorpio you could think of. Any book that I would see, like my parents were always buying, like I would buy a lot of books and they were usually about Scorpio. So I started getting into astrology that way. And then when I was 16, I met Marielena, who is still my mentor and teacher till today, but she didn't actually start teaching me until I was 18. When I came back from college last summer and I had like a mental breakdown basically, and my mom had like her card. She's like, oh, this Venezuelan psychotherapist, like go see her. Like she's spread through the grapevine of like the Venezuelan community in Orlando. I'm like, okay. So I went to see her in my first session, bro. Like she took out my birth chart, and that was my second experience where she started explaining to me like it was beyond validation of what was happening to me. It was a mirror of me seeing these aspects of me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not crazy. Like, because I would always, I'm like, why can I see things that other people cannot see? Like, why do I feel everything so deeply? Why are my emotions always so out of control? Like, my friends weren't like that. And it was I imploded a lot. I kept a lot of things inside of me. And when I would come out to my parents and be like, hey, like my mom always knew I was very, she has this story that she always tells me that, or always tells people like when I was a newborn, there was this my like when I had like nannies in Venezuela, and there was this one lady that her and her husband worked at my house, and when this one particular lady would pick me up, I would throw up on her every single time. Like, what the fuck? And I was like a super healthy baby. So fast forward a couple months later, my parents find out that her and her husband were doing dark magic, and my they were burying jars and dead things in the backyard. So shit like that always happens. Like I would get to a place and my dad would ask me, he's like, so what are you feeling here? Like what's going on? And I like my mom would be like, one time we were at this party and you were having these panic attacks at your dad's business partner's house, and ends up that the guy was doing shit behind your dad's back. So shit like that always happened to me. So I'm like, oh my God, like why am I like this? And I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. I wanted to be normal. I was like, dude, like victimization all the time. Like when I was younger, like I'm like, why am I a victim of this like intensity? Till I met a mentor that has helped me turn this into my power. She was a catalyst of that's how crazy, like how important great teachers are. She was a catalyst of this awakening. And she's so humble, she's always like, no, like I did nothing. I'm like, no, but you did. Like I did the work for sure. And I continue to do it. But damn, like there's some people that come into your life and activate something in you that is undeniable. So that's kind of how I started getting like deeper into astrology just as the years went by. And then I thought I was going to be like a witch doctor when I was like older, like in my 60s, but I had the opportunity, like the universe kind of forced me into this solitude in this world, like in 2020, the beginning of the pandemic, and I moved by myself. I was living by myself, and dude, I would literally drink coffee, take Adderall. I was doing all sorts of shit, and I would just read and read and read and lock myself in my apartment and read till I felt sick. And it's extremist, but I mean that's a whole other thing. But I just really activated that side of me, and now I'm hoping to always be a student, but I really enjoy sharing this with other people, with those who are willing to have an open heart and receive the information, because it's changed my life a lot. That and systemic constellations changed my life. And I had so as much light as I have and had, I have a lot of darkness too. And I didn't want to be consumed by it. It was consuming me through relationships, through, when I got prescribed to Adderall, like all of these external things, I was letting it consume me. People, places, things that were so not aligned with me, and I had to break free, and these tools have helped me break open for me. And I keep hollowing out. I keep hollowing out till I'm my most authentic self. And my teacher Shantae says that a lot, like, she's like, we have to keep hollowing out, especially when you're on this path of being a teacher. It's not always easy. Like, our work is deep, and it's a journey. Yeah. Is
Yes.
goodbye, and I'm like, yes.
Yes, as a teacher, you have to know, you have to have experienced that which you are sharing with other people. And you gotta be careful with what you ask for, because if you want to be that spiritual leader, you're gonna go through some shit. Like you are.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Which I wanted to tell you, by the way. I can't say this because it's been happening since we started, but you have like a blue person on your left and then like a purple orb on your right. And it's been like that this whole time. Yeah. So
Oh my God, I have chills all over my body.
you're supported. You're supported.
I feel it, how I am in Miami right now, actually, how my life has been. It's been a merging of events, like no control, no control. Like, I think I have control, and all I can have control over is how my inner world is. But the way my life has been is just miracles. It's like a series of miracles. Like, I don't know how things happen. Like, even from like coming back from India, like I'm starting from zero. And, I have to do these human things, pay bills, like, eat, like buy food, like buy this, like buy my cat food. Like, sometimes I'd be like, dude, how the fuck am I going to pay for this? And something just happens, like out of nowhere, out of not out of nowhere. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, so it's like I've been to these extremes, and now I'm trying to like build my life where like I don't have to live in these extremes anymore. But it's like, this isn't who I am anymore. It's like I'm building on a strong foundation, and I don't know how it's gonna look like, but I know that it's gonna be fucking beautiful. Especially with, my ancestors supporting me, and finding these hidden gems within myself that have been coming up in my journey through my disciplines. The more, like, yes, like I'm reaching into darker places, but I'm also finding even more light and more keys to life. And I feel like my whole purpose of existing is to be of service, to for me to be happy, but for me to be of service to people in this way. I can't not share this with people. It's like, if someone wants to, like, for example, like when you were like, dude, you should teach a class, I'm like, okay, I'll teach a class, cool. Like, thank you for that, because it's yeah, it's like a catalyst of like awakening these certain energies. So never stop being like that, or sharing what you're feeling and what you're thinking with other people, because you've been someone, you always have these like random little nuggets that you like just throw at me, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I resonate with that so much.
Man, you just have so much fucking wisdom. I'm like, I need you to get higher out there, please. I need you like at Oprah level already. Like, come on.
Thank you, dude. I mean, that's how I feel about my teachers. Like, I don't know. I'm like, these women, it's like something like my astrology guru in India said. He was like, the real gurus don't care. Like, if a student comes to them and wants to learn, they'll teach. If they decide that you're worthy enough to be taught. And that really stuck to me. I was like, holy fuck, like, I don't want this to be a masculine energy capitalized kind of thing. Like, not masculine, more like toxic masculinity, like put that into like my business. It's like I want it to flow. So when I have friends, like someone at the office the other day was like, hey, I heard you were a yoga teacher. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how did you hear that? She's like, I want private lessons. And I'm like, okay, if someone asks for the service, I'm gonna do it. I couldn't say no. I was like, okay, I'll teach you. Like, so I've been kind of moving like that through it, like, where, because people are like, market more, do this more, and I'm like, bro, I don't want to do more. I don't. I just want to flow and exist and live. Like, my masculine energy is my real estate shit right now. My feminine energy is my astrology, esoteric life. And now I'm bringing these two worlds together. And I'm still experimenting with life, like with myself and my own case study. But I've been through a lot of shit for sure. And it's like I've been through it, I survived it, I transformed it, I alchemized it, and that's why I can teach it. Because it's like I've been through some shit. I've been through a lot of shit in my life. It just has a lot of us have. But it's been the teachers in my life who have grabbed me by the hand and spirit, God, my ancestors, the people in my life who are angels, who have grabbed me by the hand and been like, okay, how are we going to alchemize this? How are we going to go through this time? And it's really fucking cool to just say that out loud, because sometimes we forget how lucky we are, because we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people and to other people's journeys. And the fact that we're here having this conversation, we're in our homes, we have a roof, like, it really is the little things, dude, that we're having this space of love, of sharing energy. This moment is perfect. And that's all we can ask for.
Mhm. Or even having water. Like I did a ceremony.
Yes, wait, yes.
I did a ceremony where we weren't able to have water. And then the moment I had that cup of water, I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing in the world. And it's just like, it's those little things that really just make life amazing. Really,
Really.
really amazing.
Thank you for the space, because it's a huge reminder whenever this comes up, like gratitude, gratitude
Mhm,
for
mhm.
being able to open your eyes and see the sunrise. I think especially like when you live through situations where like death is involved, like a physical death, like you're never the same after. And it was actually death that was my first teacher when I was really young. My grandmother passed away, and she would like sleep, like when she would like sleep in my bed, like, cariño, like fall asleep when I was a little girl. And I remember her death really shook me to my core. And but it also blossomed gratitude, a lot of gratitude. I'm like, dude, it's crazy how people complain about shit. Like, we could die at any moment, some Scorpio shit, dude. Like,
A little Scorpio Wednesday, vanilla, Vanessa
literally,
version.
bro. Except my mom wanted me to dress in pink and flowers. Like, but I was like Wednesday Adams, dude. Like, te lo juro. I was like, what the
Oh my, oh, actually, talking about your ancestry. So the rosary goes back to like way back when like the rosary was made out of actual roses to what's that called? It's not devote, but praise the Divine Mother.
Mhm.
So then because they weren't allowed to do that anymore because it wasn't, a religious thing, they turned it into praising the mother of Jesus. So that way they could hide that practice. Then there's this book called The Way of the Rose, which was written by a couple. The man is a Zen Buddhist monk, not anymore. I think he went down the path, but he's not anymore. I don't know. But anyways, he talks about the whole history and everything and like the relationship with that and you being like very influenced with Scorpio, you having a lineage of priestesses, literally Catholic priestesses, but priestesses nonetheless. And your experiences with death and all of that, it's like, that's pure womb, that's pure divine feminine, that's pure void, rebirth, death, all of that good stuff. Um, so it's just nice to
Dude,
see
I'm
that
just
unfold.
I'm like, wow. It's just, it took me a while to like put two and two together. I was like, dude, every morning I wake up and I have my mala, 108 beads, just how they did every single fucking morning. And I see my abuelas, man. I'm like, damn, bro, like I'm doing the same thing there, just a different version of it. But it's the same shit. It's the same shit. Like, what?
Yeah, literally, yes, I had the same thought. Like, I remember, I think it was you that shared like that Mala challenge for like 2 weeks. I think it was the teacher, the woman that was there for the family constellations workshop that she,
Maureen, yeah. Maureen was my first Ashtanga teacher. Like she taught me like lead class. Like she's wonderful. Yeah. Wow.
yes, yes. So she shared that challenge, and then I was like, I know the rosary. I literally have two rosaries at my house. I don't really have a mala bead necklace situation. And it's like, if I'm gonna do the mala beads, why don't I just do the rosary? And so then I did the rosary for 3 days, but still, I did the rosary.
Bro, that's beautiful, Ashley. Oh my God. I'm wondering, I'm like, dude, I wonder if like my mom has any of these like rosaries on my ground. They had like some ancient shit. Dude, my mom showed me a book that she has of one of my aunts that's a fucking exorcism book.
Excuse me?
It's a book to perform, it's yeah, it's a book to perform exorcisms. It has
Wow.
prayers from the Bible. And like it's like a old ass book that's been like given from family member to family member since for like fucking 100 years. Marica, unas cosas locas that I'm like, mom, why would you not tell me this? Like, what the fuck?
It's
She's
like,
like,
take me to an astrology, but don't tell me we have an exorcism book in the background.
they
Mm-mm.
were just not like, I don't know, dude. They're just, I tell my mom, I'm like, mom, like, like these women were priests. And she's like, I want to see what it said. I'm like,
So she knows.
no, yeah, no, she knows. But it's just crazy. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just ingrained in my DNA. I'm just like, dude, I am them, they are me.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, them in the present moment, and we're here just like liberating them and are happy. They want us to be happy. Our
Yeah.
ancestors happy because they couldn't make it. Like
Mm-hmm.
they were part of it's like we're part of the story, but it doesn't mean that we come from the story, but we don't have to repeat the story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so beautiful that we have these tools. Like, yeah, it blows my mind.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. And it's funny too, because sometimes I feel like, yes, we're here to be happy. Our ancestors want us to be happy. Excuse me. And then the ones that want us to be happy but meet us with resistance, it's like that's still needed because they need to release all of that, just like how we need to overcome all of that. So that way both parties can really move forward and be like, this is possible from both sides of it, from the side that is resisting and the sides that is overcoming the situation or the hurdle. But oh, that's so nice. Life,
Life.
beauty, beauty. So you do have a class on May 15th for astrology. So if anybody still wants to sign up for that, where can they find you to learn more from you and your guru?
My Instagram. My Instagram's like condensed into everything. It's like my just schedule, like my profile, my portfolio, everything is on Instagram. And yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So we are gonna change it up a bit. Instead of Pluto's gonna come after. We kind of decided to have it more towards a soul purpose. So studying the lunar nodes, Chiron and Venus. Venus and Chiron, just Chiron, showing the wounds, the blockages, Venus abundance, how we can attract abundance according to our Venus, and the lunar nodes talking about our past life and our karmic life mission, what we came to do. So we thought that those were more appropriate with kind of like the energy of what we've been seeing with our clients and with friends, with people around us, what people are going through. So there's still time to sign up. Payment plans available, like for people who want to learn. Because I get that, dude. Like sometimes it's like, hey, I don't get paid till like, I don't know, 2 weeks or something. It's like, man, but I want to learn. Like, dude, you're more than welcome. Like, it's okay, you know?
We're here to serve.
We're here to serve. Exactly. That's the main thing. Um, and nothing, of course, an energetic exchange, but it's more important that if there's someone that wants to learn to be able to be a part of it. So yeah.
Cool, cool. And what's your handle on Instagram?
Astro Mezcal. It's funny because
Astro Mezcal.
my LLC is still Astro Champagne, and I'm like, I don't know why. What is it with me and the spirits, dude?
Champagne, mezcal.
That mezcal was more appropriate for my indigenous roots.
I someone said that tequila is the only upper out of the alcohols. All the other ones are downers.
Mhm.
But anyways,
I love tequila. Rarely drink it, but if I'm gonna drink alcohol, it's that. Dude, that too, dude. Alcohol's like another thing. It's like all of these things, dude.
I totally feel you on that. Like before COVID, I was cool with alcohol. We were best friends. We shouldn't be, but we were. And now it's like I literally look at alcohol and I already have a hangover. I just
It's crazy. The more sensitive you become, it's interesting to like all external things,
Mhm.
whether it's smoking or whether it's weed or whether even with coffee, like, the more you're cleansing and nurturing your body, the more sensitive you become to external stimuli. It's crazy. I had two tequila drinks like recently, and my God, I was recovering for 2 days, and I'm like, wow, what is this telling me? It's like, am I gonna judge myself? No, like, no guilt, like, it's okay. But I'm just noticing, like, this doesn't serve me at all. I'm not gonna say I'm never gonna fucking drink again. No, so it's not realistic for me, at least not right now. You never know. But it doesn't serve me. It really doesn't. Yeah. I like being sober. Like I enjoy myself. Like I enjoy sober.
And your Wednesday sober self. Yes.
Dude, you have to watch it. You're gonna be like, what?
No, and that's the thing too. It's like I didn't watch it, and then she's like, "You're Wednesday," and I'm like, and then I watched it, and I was like, "Yes, that is me." Mhm.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything else? Any last messages, comments regarding yoga, astrology, or whatever else, maybe before we go ahead and close this out?
Man, I think the only thing I have to say, like, for anyone this, is listening to this or resonates with this, is to follow the curiosity, follow your intuition, follow your soul, follow the messages, pay attention. The universe is always speaking to us.
Mm.
And not being afraid to take that step in something new, or something that
Mhm.
you feel called to, because at the end of the day, we're all just remembering things that we already know. That's it.
Aho. Mhm.
Nah, amiga, thank you so much. I'm so proud of you. It's an honor to be here, be a mirror of you, and to be in this space. And thank you a lot.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you.